first time I even took a few strokes on a stand-up paddleboard, I just couldn't help but to think what it would feel like to do just a simple eddy turn, holding onto a paddle standing up in the river. And it wasn't but maybe 3 days later, I was out there trying to paddle down the bottom part of the hood on my stand-up paddleboard, and it's just turned into a really fun obsession since then. My friend JD introduced me to it, and he's like, "Hey Dan, I got the board for you, the sport for you." And I was like, "How much? Sign me up. It sounds amazing." And ever since the first stroke I took, the feeling it was unreal. So I still can't get over how much fun it is.
Sup everyone, I'm Paul Clark. Sup Paul, welcome to my channel. In this episode, we're meeting the godfather of river paddleboarding, Dan Gavere. In 2015, when I was just starting to river paddleboard, there were a few people online who were sending it. Dan Gavere was one of them. A couple people were teaching you how to river surf. Dan was dropping 30-plus foot waterfalls. But in the back of my head, I knew Dan was the man, and when I finally met him, I was excited, and I've learned a ton over the last few years paddling with him in the White Salmon area and some other places. So in this episode, we're chatting with him. We're talking about the future of river paddleboarding, paddleboarding in general, the things that he's doing on foils and kites and all that kind of good stuff. Let's go do this.
Hey everyone, okay, just name and where I'm from.
This is well.
Okay.
This is an audio test.
All right. Dan Gavere from Hood River, Oregon. I come from a long paddling history where I started kayaking as a teenager, followed it all the way up through basically making it into a career, and I'm still following the path of my paddle, and now kind of transitioned into more of the surf/sup and wind industry, and working with Fanatic now on the SUP stuff, and a little bit with Duotone on some of the foil wing stuff, and having a lot of fun on the foil wing board. I think that's funny to be referred to as maybe the godfather of whitewater sup. Hi, my name's Dan Gavere, and today I'm gonna guide you through an eddy turn. I mean, I am getting older. I'm turning 50 here in about a month, and man, it's so much fun. I guess just the low impact of it falling in the water is just makes it a lot safer, and being able to get right back up on the board makes it a lot more acceptable to people who might want to try it, whereas they're really stoked on whitewater, but maybe kayaking's just a little too deep, like that space is not comfortable for them, and they look at a sup board, and some of us trying and failing and trying and failing and just falling off and getting back up on the board pretty easily. I think that's where the real draw is, and my theory for the future of the sport is we're going to see it grow along with the whitewater parks in the more urban communities where people see it. They're walking by, they're walking their dog, they got the family out, and they're like, "Hey hun, that looks like something I could do. It looks fun. We can just roll down the street and do it right here in our backyard." And I really believe that's where the future of it could be for the most growth. And then at the other end, the IOC is looking at SUP for sure to include in the Olympics. And I believe that whitewater SUP could be one of the more fun things to watch as far as a spectacle for people watching the kind of the new generation, like that Red Bull style of action where you're either fully crushing it or you're in the drink just swimming for your life, is head-to-head stand-up paddling through whitewater. And we've already seen it with the Payette River Games and a lot of other events. The GoPro Mountain Games, which is still going strong. Really strong European community getting behind it. Man, hopefully the Olympics looks at it, and maybe, you know, sometime down the road, maybe 2030s, 2040s, you could see SUP whitewater in the Olympics. They already have the course. All they got to do is plug the guys in, have a cool gate at the top, and yeah, it would be sick. Some of the best places to paddle, in my opinion, from where I've been and my experience, United States has definitely some of my favorite places to paddle. The Lochsaw being one of my favorite places to paddle, foreshore in a kayak or a sup. pretty demanding sup stuff there, but you always have pipeline to go surf, which is super dreamy. I love it right here. I mean, the White Salmon River, I mean, the Pacific Northwest, you cannot beat it for year-round paddling, especially in the winter when everything else might be frozen in the mountains. Paddling in the PNW is on point. Outside of that, some of my favorite places to paddle have definitely been in Europe, in France. I really enjoy paddling over there, Outdoor Mix Festival and some of the other stuff. Some of the other rivers that I've really enjoyed, of course, are the Socha in Slovenia. Amazing river. When I was there, it rained a lot, so we got some pretty high water. I'd love to go back when it's a little bit more manageable and really check it out. I think there's some amazing paddling in New Zealand as well. I haven't been there on my SUP, but when I was there in a kayak, I could imagine that my future could include some of that, paddling there. And now that I'm really getting into being in the ocean and having whitewater nearby, maybe some places like, you know, Panama, Costa Rica, Portugal, Spain, France that have both of those things. And man, that's going to be right at the top of my list. I would say paddleboarding now is reached pretty much saturation within the human race. Pretty much everyone who's gonna see it has probably seen it. A lot of people who bucket list stuff, they've probably tried it by now. Hopefully more people are buying boards. I see a lot more people buying inflatables. The inflatable part of the technology is definitely the new driving force behind SUP. And I think that's really neat because it just brings more people to places where a durable paddleboard is going to do better, like the river and like being able to use it in whitewater. So maybe they buy it to play on the lake and they transition into playing with it on moving water a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that'll help grow this whitewater part of it. And where it's going, I think, again, inflatables for the family will be behind most of the growth. The racing end is pretty saturated. We're seeing a lot more races rather than just a lot of people going to a few big races. So the big races are also losing numbers a little bit. It's not a bad thing, but you're just seeing more events, so all those racers are spread out. They can go to their, you know, local events now rather than having to travel all the way to California or Florida to race. And we're seeing here, which is really cool, is a huge contingent of downwinding and people really wanting to transition from paddling race boards in flat water, maybe in the ocean, to really doing downwind runs here from Viento to Hood River. I mean, there's nothing like it. There's no downwind in the world that's like that downwind run, going upriver with 40 knots at your back. I mean, it's just an unreal experience. So that's a really cool thing here locally, but we're in a fishbowl. Some of the stuff that lately I've really been into, obviously, is the foil wing. Basically, we call it wing riding. It's a hand wing that you hold in your hand. It's similar to windsurfing. We're using it with a hydrofoil board. We're not really going out without the hydrofoil. Although you can, and I've had some pretty fun skateboard sessions with one. And the feeling of just, I mean, it's been a lifelong search for me to find the magic carpet ride, and really like surfing a wave on a surfboard, riding powder, deep powder on a snowboard is really amazing. And now we have this hydrofoil thing that we're either using a paddle or with the wing. It's just an unbelievable feeling to be going that fast with that much control, with so much suspension and float over the surface. I've really been having a lot of fun with that. And really, now that I'm a little older and knowing that I wanted to do some more stuff with maybe a YouTube channel, I did some how-to videos, which have been a lot of fun for me to kind of produce. Now that I'm working with Boards and More Group, Duotone Kiteboarding is our sister brand at Fanatic. So I've been able to get my hands on some of the more awesome gear, and working a little bit with Sky Solbach on boards, and getting to work a little bit with Ken Winner, who really invented the boom style duotone foil wing. Has been a really special experience for me, and I look forward to doing some more of that product development.
Cool. I think that's it.
Cool. Sorry, that was a lot.
No, that's good. Thank you, sir.
I was like thinking and talking. So. Thanks, dude. That was awesome.